Welcome back, piggies.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. We're
Welcome
really
back.
excited for this episode of the Pigskin Pals podcast with your host Dayne and AJ. Today we got one stud and one sleeper from the running back and quarterback position. But more importantly, there was big news today. It's Thursday. It's Rams versus Vikings. Is it Vikings? I don't even know. But Puka is back, baby. Confirmed. He's playing. Everywhere you got him, you better start him because he's going to pop off. I'm excited, as you can tell. Dayne told me not to play Puka anywhere. But you know what? I'm not going to listen to him.
Decoy alert, everyone, but we'll see if we're proved wrong. Let's get stuck right into it. Before we hop into the studs and sleepers, I have a quick question for you. Fuck, marry, kill. CD, Zay Flowers, and Puka Nacua.
Just come up with this right now on the spot. I can tell. Oh wow. Okay. Kill is gonna have to be Say Flowers. I think he's the newbie of the group. I feel like.
Yeah.
So I gotta give respect to the other two. If we're going based off like
Looks.
Mary's like I get to be with I get looks I get to be with them forever. I go CD for sure, and then fuck Puka because like who wouldn't want him? You know what I mean? Come on, look at that guy.
I'd fuck CD because I feel like Puka would just be way more fun to hang around.
I could see that. Honestly. I don't hate that take. I really don't hate that. You know, it's just my Cowboys bias taking over, but that's a good take from you, I think. Let's move into it. Let's move into the studs and sleepers.
First stud QB that we have on this list, we actually both agree on yours pretty heavily, so I can add some input in there. But the one I went with was Joe Burrow. I mean, I was trying to think of like someone that was also still sort of a value too.
Sure.
Because like, Lamar is the stud right now.
Yeah.
Like you probably can't even really get him.
No.
And then like,
Impossible.
I would love Josh Allen. I would love like any of the top like 5 quarterbacks right now. But I feel like Burrow's being slept on a little bit more. I mean, he doesn't have that running capabilities that's really attractive in fantasy. But I do think he is that elite passer like Aaron Rodgers that can win you weeks still, and he's not going to be losing you many weeks either, which is something that I really like. And yeah, he started to really turn it on. He's currently, I mean, why I love him so much is just because of their offense. They're not going to be able to run the ball. They're passing the ball, and they're going to stick with that. Currently, he has the seventh most pass attempts this season, and I really only see that going up from here with the productions that we've seen from the running backs. It's not like they're winning the games, really. It's going to be in the air. He's 6 in yards, 4th in touchdowns, and he's been playing like highly accurate with a 70% completion percentage, which I think is really good. And heading into week 8, he also has the 11th easiest strength of schedule. It's nothing like your quarterback strength of schedule going forward, but this one is still pretty juicy. And just as we see Burrow set himself apart from that wrist injury that he was recovering from in the offseason, I think it's only going to just improve from here. So Joe Burrow is my stud QB.
Yeah.
I'm going with.
I like it. I do. I think really he struggled a little bit early, and he just didn't have all his guys. He's got all his guys back.
Yeah.
The offense is back and grooving. I think if he's got those healthy wide receivers and little semblance of a run game, he's going to be easy 20 points every week. And
Band
that's
is
at the
back
low
together.
side probably. So, yeah, band is back together. Moving on to, this kind of applies as well for Jalen Hurts. The band is back together. Jalen Hurts is a guy you obviously also were looking to pick as a stud QB. For me, it's even with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown out, he still had fairly decent fantasy weeks in that 4-week period. And that's strictly because of his rushing floor with the touchdowns that he gets. And this now, with the other 2 guys back, is just an incredibly stacked offense. This offense without A.J. Brown is completely different in terms of the air yardage. It's not the same at all. Since he's been back, it's like night and day, and without any other injuries coming about, I think Jalen Hurts this is my take, I think he'll probably be the number 1 QB moving forward, and it sounds like you touched on it a little bit. He has 5 of 6 division games left. This division is not good. That's what I have to say about it. The NFC East is a bad division in football, especially on the defensive side of the ball. This is another take, I guess. I think the Eagles are going to win this division handily. I think the Commanders are a little bit fraudulent. They haven't really played anyone reasonable, and I think the Eagles moving forward are going to go on an absolute tear, and Jalen Hurts is going to pop off.
Yeah, I can read you some of the teams that he's been playing soon. I think there's one team I would be scared of his production, but it's going Cincinnati, Jacksonville, Dallas, Washington, the Rams, Baltimore, who you can throw on, Carolina, Pittsburgh, and then Washington and Dallas to close out the fantasy schedule.
Unreal.
That's juicy.
Unreal.
And
yeah. I mean, for me, it's like Steelers, right?
Yeah,
Steelers is the
what I
only
was thinking.
team I'm like a little bit worried about just because. So I don't know. It seems insane.
And then, yeah, your first point too of bringing the pieces all together. Yeah, he has his receivers now, but then he just lost his tight end. So in another couple of weeks, maybe he's playing even better when he has all three of his top receiving. Well, I guess four.
Which would be crazy if he gets better. So yeah, I think he's going to be a freak moving forward.
My sleeper is Brock Purdy. This might come as a surprise just because he has like proven himself in the fantasy realm, and he could be looked at as like more of an elite player with the players he's surrounded by. But unfortunately for the Niners, they've been hampered by injuries. And so that's why I kind of threw him into the sleeper with that recent Ayuk news. I mean, he wasn't doing much, but I mean, it's always going to hurt the offense of trying to figure out how to overcome this. But the brightest spot in this offense, like, I think it's Ben Kittle, like, for weapons. He's been playing outstanding, but Purdy has just been playing great too. And he's making and taking the shots that you want your fantasy quarterback to do. I didn't realize he has nearly 10 air yards per pass completion, which leads the entire league by like 1 whole yard and like another one. So
That's
every
insane.
single time he's completing a pass, it's almost 10 yards. And then he also leads the league in
That's
air
insane.
yards by 220 yards. So he's taking these deep shots. And eventually when CMC gets back too, like you might think, oh, that's going to hurt his value. But I think that's just going to make this offense click even more. He's a receiving back. He's going to be getting that receiving work and help Purdy out too. So my sleeper, Brock Purdy.
Yeah, I am interested to see how this one goes. I think maybe I'm just not like the biggest Brock Purdy believer ever. Losing a lot of these weapons, we don't know how long Debo's gonna be out, if he's even gonna be out for a while with this pneumonia thing he's got going on, whatever's going on there. I think Brock Purdy's good. I don't know how fantasy consistent Brock will be in this offense, but I do think what you mentioned, when Christian McCaffrey comes back, if he comes back, that will be more of a help than a hindrance. So I think Brock Purdy owners should be looking forward to that happening and not dreading it, if that makes sense. Moving on to my sleeper QB, the Rook. We don't have much on this guy, Drake May. He's played 2 games in the NFL, but let me tell you, those 2 games have been pretty good. I don't know if you've watched any of the Patriots games. He has looked like a good NFL quarterback. Like, it's not just because he has to throw the ball a million times. He has these stats, whatever it is. He's looked good. He's a gunslinger. He makes plays. He seems reasonably intelligent in terms of like not making stupid throws, turning the ball over unnecessarily. In his 2 games, with the Patriots being as bad as they are in general, they're going to be down in every game probably. And just through 2 games, you've seen that they will throw. He's thrown for over like 33 or more attempts in both those games. I don't see that number going down. Those have all resulted in 250 plus yards and 2+ touchdowns in both those games. I think he is going to have so much volume throwing the football, and he's a good player. He's going to have a solid like floor. Like, I don't think he'll give you dud games just because of the sheer amount that he's throwing the football. So this is like the type of guy where if you've been like going back and forth with quarterbacks, you know, playing the waiver wire, playing whatever, I really like, if you can, getting Drake May, and this can be a guy I think you can start every week, even in matchups where you think it's going to be bad, strictly because he's going to throw the ball a lot and they'll always be down, which means he's going to have a lot of chances at touchdowns and yards, which is what you want.
My only pushback on this one is it's not May, it's his weapons. Who do you trust the most in this game? Like, I personally, I'm like, I feel like Henry's almost the number one target in this offense. But is there anyone that you can actually trust, or it's just going to be passing the ball all around and he's just going to be a field general?
I think Hunter Henry is probably the most like technically reliable player or weapon for him. I don't think they really have any receiver that's purely like, oh, this is the guy you need to target, which I think almost might not be a bad thing, because spreading the ball around on a team like this might be more beneficial than trying to just pipe it to one guy. And if I had to pick a receiver, I'd say probably, honestly, like KJ Osborne. He's just the most like battle tested, I feel like, and he's been good basically every year he's played. I trust him the most, probably.
I don't trust him. We'll see in the next episode. I was trying to squeeze one of these cheap ass Patriots into my DFS lineup, but I could just not figure out who the right play was. So moving on to the running backs. My stud running back is Kenneth Walker, the man himself. If
not surprising.
Man, dude, I need to trade for him somewhere.
Yes, you
and
do.
Get this guy.
You do.
Because he is going on a tear. Going into the season, we all knew Kenneth Walker is an elite rusher, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no arguing that. He's one of the best runners in the game.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of reminds me of like Chubb. I was always profiled as best running back in the game, but like, can he do everything? I don't really know. This year, we're seeing it. Gino's been slinging the ball this year also. This offense is firing on all cylinders. As I was mentioning, going into this year, the biggest knock for him, like coming into the fantasy drafts, was his receiving work. And if he could earn more targets in that department, he would be an elite player. Guess what is happening?
He's doing it.
Who has the most... who has the most targets in the red zone for running backs this year?
I mean, you're leading me want to say Kenneth Walker. That's what I'll say.
Okay, well, you're wrong. It's
Thank
Aaron
goodness.
Jones.
I was going to lose my mind.
But what about second? Who's second?
Oh, you can't do this to me because I know this is now. I know that this isn't going to be Kenneth Walker either. He's going to be like third, and you're bamboozling me. I'm going to say Kenneth Walker though at 2.
Kenneth Walker has the second most targets in the red zone for running backs this year,
and
he's also 9th in targets for running backs in general.
Yeah,
all while missing 2 games this year.
Yeah, that's incredible. Actually,
he's doing it all. Go get yourself a stud. Go get Walker.
I like it. I got nothing to say. I love Kenneth Walker too. I've never been able to say that. Like these first, is he his third year?
He's
right?
a fourth year.
It's third or fourth year, whatever it may be. Before this year, I had never really been a Kenneth Walker guy. I've always had my doubts, but watching him play this year and just seeing all of the doubts that I had and other people had, just being like torn to shreds with his play has been fun. And I am no longer a hater, and I am a lover of Kenneth Walker.
It's a third year.
There you go. That's what I thought. My stud RB is a guy I think I actually, in our Keep Trade Cut video, I think I cut him, which is hilarious because that was, a week ago? Well, I've made a bit of a switch here. He's my stud RB here. Kyren Williams. He's been insane. He's been absolutely insane. He's had 4 out of the 6 weeks he's played. So 4 out of 7 weeks. They had a bye week already. He's been a RB1. He's got basically 20 attempts a game. He's scored at least once in every single game that they've played, which I think is actually insane. He's just a TD hound. It's insanity. And this is all with an offense that's completely depleted in weapons. And you can be like, oh, they're getting all these weapons back. He's going to, they're not going to give him the balls. They're not going to do this. They're not going to do that. No, I don't see that happening at all. He's going to be even better. It's kind of reminding me of like the Purdy thing you were saying. Like, oh, McCaffrey's coming back. He's going to be worse. The offense is going to be better, which only means that Kyren Williams is going to be as good, if not better. And he's already probably a top 3 RB on the year. I don't even know if that's what the real number is, but he's been insane. He's going to continue to be the workhorse. No one's taking this job from him. And with Puka, my boy, coming back, Cooper Kupp back for the time being, who knows, maybe he'll get traded. I think he's just going to be absolutely insane.
For all the fans listening at home, just a heads up, AJ's not a Rams fan.
I'm not a Rams fan.
He's
a
Cowboys fan.
I'm a Cowboys fan.
Which might be deceiving with what he's wearing and preaching right now. But yeah, I agree. It's almost, I feel like, a name thing for Kyren with me. How it's just like, it's just Kyren Williams. Like, he's not
exactly.
But no, he is a touchdown fiend. And getting the weapons back, that offense is just going to be staying on offense more. They're going to be in the red zone more.
Yeah.
It's going to be opening the box, too, for him to run more. Yeah, I agree.
Your sleeper running back. Ooh, look at this guy.
My sleeper is Tank Bigsby.
Let's go, baby.
I think there is a shot that he could be a league winner. This was one of the most shocking stats that I've ever seen while I was doing my research for this episode. Tank is tied for 3rd in red zone rush attempts with Kamara and Saquon at 21 rush attempts in the red zone. Absolutely bonkers to me. Let alone, what's most shocking probably is that the Jaguars in the red zone this much.
That's literally what I was thinking. I'm like, they've been in the red zone enough for him to have that? Like, that's insane.
Yeah. So what I gathered from this, though, is that there is like a clear trust between the Jags and Tank Bigsby. If they're running him this much in the red zone, they trust this man, or maybe they just do not trust Lawrence right now. I don't know what it is, but I do think that trust will continue even when ETN comes back. And if this Jaguar team figures out any sort of groove, Bigsby could be like fantasy gold this year. So it's a long shot, but
I don't hate it. The one thing I will say about him is that he does not catch the football. He's not a pass catcher. So if there's games where they're behind or something like that, like, and the game script gets out of hand and they can't just run the ball, he could be in trouble. But what I will say is if they do figure it out, I agree he will be great, because I don't know if you watch any of the games where ETN has been out. He's been the 2-down, first down, second down type back, and Dearness Johnson comes in on like third down as like their receiving back type thing. I think what's going to happen going forward is Tank's situation won't change. His role won't change, but ETN's going to go in the Dearness Johnson role, and that's how that's going to go forward. So I think Tank Bigsy's going to be a problem for ETN owners, unless, you've got both of them like me in Dynasty. Then it's just like actually an active whole problem, because you can never play either of them because you have no clue what's going on. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. I do like it. I think if the Jags figure it out and they become a reasonable team, he's going to be very good. I do worry about receiving usage a little bit. But if he runs like he's been running, which has been like very good, maybe it won't be an issue because he's been really efficient on the ground. So
yeah, hopefully the team just gets a little better and that helps out Tank. And then for what I think what you would have to pay for him, I'm fine not getting a full 3-down back. Like this is a bargain price. I'm not going to pay an arm and a leg for Bigsby.
Yeah, I think too, people like now is still a buy window, even though he just had a big game, because people don't know what's going to happen when ETN comes back. So people are still maybe a little bit like, oh, I don't know, like if I can get something for him. I don't think his role is going to change all that much. So I think if you can get a cheap buy window now, it's only going to get more expensive later, is my thought too.
Or it could dip again when the news of ETN is going to be coming back and starting again. Maybe you buy right there. You can feel out how good this is, or how good he is. True. With being the main guy. So just a wait and see approach maybe.
And mine's a little gross. He's a little bit of a nasty boy this season, I'd say. My sleeper running back for the rest of the year is Jalen Warren. He's kind of been in no man's land, not really a part of any discussions this year. I think only really because, well, for two reasons. But the big reason, I think, is he's been injured. He's not been playing, and when he's played, he hasn't looked 100%, like at least before last week. And in last week's game, I thought he actually looked like himself again. He looked like his shifty little self. He's a tough runner. He's good in pass protection, which is important. And I think most importantly, he has Russell Wilson now instead of Justin Fields. Justin Fields obviously is a scrambler. He's not going to dump it off to running backs. Russell Wilson, notoriously good at dumping it off to his running back, which will be Jalen Warren, because Najee Harris is not a guy that's going to be on passing downs. It's kind of like that Tank's Bigsby situation. He's not really a receiving back. Jalen Warren, I think, is going to see an uptick in snaps, in usage. He's already, I think it was like last week, he was already about 50% snap percentage, which is pretty good for coming off that injury. And if he gets healthier and they see him being back to Jalen Warren form, getting to 60% snaps, I don't see being unrealistic, because the Steelers looked like they wanted to throw the ball. And if they're throwing the ball, I think Jalen Warren's going to be on the field. I feel really good about Jalen Warren. I personally think if you can, he's a cheap running back. If you're struggling in that position, this is a guy I would target.
My only fear with this is it almost sounds like you're hyping him up as like that third down back that's going to be getting a lot of receiving work. What if that just helps Najee also? Because Najee has proven it in the past that he can be a reliable receiving threat. And Najee, he definitely does look a lot more spry this year.
He does, for sure.
He's been breaking off some runs. I know he cut down on some weight to get there. Just to show you that he's a good receiving back. If people don't know out there, I was just going through his game log. In his rookie year, he had 19 targets in one game and 14 receptions for 100 yards.
That's insane.
He's not a schmuck by any means, but I think it will just it'll be interesting to see how this plays out and who they kind of go back to, and when Patterson comes back too.
I don't know.
This offense
I don't think Patterson will be too much of a factor. Patterson was really only getting snaps because Jalen Warren was hurt. So,
or is it Arthur Smith?
You can never put anything past Arthur Smith, so I'll give that to you. The other thing I'll say is Jalen Warren's not just a receiving back. I know I put a lot of weight into saying that, but he takes full series from Najee Harris. Like you saw that in the Jets game. He takes full series, especially if it's like a 2-minute drill type thing. He's the running back even in the not 2-minute drill, he's on first, second, third down. It's not like he's only coming in on third downs. He still gets rushing work, but it's just with a quarterback like Russ who's going to dump the ball off more as opposed to Justin Fields. I think he'll be a lot better than he was in the beginning of the year, especially now that he's healthy.
I guess maybe Najee's just my second sleeper running back, and
I don't hate that either.
Going to be improving.
I think these two are like a great
they
1-2 punch.
They definitely do share. It's been like 50-50 like the whole year pretty much for Najee. And who else is? Yeah.
That's what we got for you. The running backs and the QBs, our studs, our sleepers. Next week, we'll be coming at you with the wide receivers and the tight ends, so stay tuned for that. We appreciate you all watching. Dane, you got anything to say?
Yeah, comment down below who your studs and sleepers are for the quarterbacks and running backs, and maybe do some predictions for who is going to be coming up next week. I mean, I feel like I got one for AJ. If his jersey's got anything to say, maybe his players can change it. I don't know.
Come on now. You never know.
But thank you for listening, and stay tuned for our next episode.